So I've been taking this time to reflect on life and what I'm up to. And this last week I had a vacation with my husband, or he was on vacation, and it was awesome. We celebrated our year anniversary. It was great. But it got me out of my routine and it's kind of off of focusing on this stuff, which is also good. And I've really been in contemplation about what is the purpose of life. And if I want to live a really deeply satisfied, fulfilled life, what does that look like? Because I'm seeing that the most significant characteristic of our culture right now is an intensity about going and achieving and doing, and it's for what is what I'm coming to. There's a lack of time and feeling so maxed out. And I understand that these things can give us a sense of purpose. Work can give you a sense of purpose, family, but it also sort of becomes an excuse to just keep going at Mach speed. And there's very little enjoyment of what really is. And even during this process, it's become strange to feel less purpose in it. Like, what's the purpose? And I would keep wanting to find the purpose of becoming happy. And I have found some of those, but at the same time, I'm also finding a lot of material that's talking about to really live a satisfied life, there's a certain level of purposelessness that gets to be embraced, and accepting what is without it needing to be different, and just enjoying to enjoy, just to be. And I feel it's very counterintuitive to our culture, or even my culture, being a workaholic and overachiever. But I've come to that place where I'm like, for what? What does that really get you in the long run, other than maybe looking cool? People are like, wow, you have this or that, or you're so awesome, or we're so obsessed with what do you do and what do you drive? But why? At the end of the day, and I've been blessed to be very close the last few years, in close contact with my parents at their ranch, and watching them as two incredible overachievers. My dad has a PhD, worked for the DoD, Department of Defense, building the missile defense system, and dean of the NATO Defense College in Rome, Italy, and did all kinds of amazing things. And my mom's also very accomplished, and they always graduated from school early and worked so hard. But you come to a place now as they're aging and reaching a different place in their life where I'm beginning to really get, for what? What was that for? It looks really cool while you're doing it. Don't get me wrong. It feels really purposeful when you have a family and your career and you feel like you're going to conquer the world and get somewhere. But where are we hoping to get to? Because at the end of the day, no matter what level you reached and how much stuff you have, or accomplishments or trophies in a shelf, it all becomes meaningless at some point. And even if it's meaningful for you your whole life, after you pass, then it becomes really meaningless. So, and even people who achieve great spiritually still come to the same place. And so it's like, no matter what you do or study or look at, there's an element of purposelessness to it all. And being able to embrace that, I'm realizing, is a huge piece of the life I'm looking for. And it's not a common thing to be looking for, but I think there is a deep longing in all of us to enjoy more. And I'm coming to a place where I think that might be the only point, is just to enjoy life, that this is a game, that we're just supposed to be having a good time. So racing through it, trying to achieve or accomplish, it doesn't have a purpose. It just feels like it's a purpose, but it's a made-up purpose. And our desire to avoid the fear of things actually being purposeless, we're wasting our lives and the time we do have. And I'm not saying, like, there's also, the whole atheist thought process that says there is no point, literally, it was all an accident. I don't buy that either. I don't mean that level of purposelessness, because that is just sort of that tough guy reality facing that disregards the incredible magic of what's going on. And I think there is a lot of magic. But there's something to be said for truly relishing our lives and each moment as it's going along. And I think there's a deep sense in us that when we're not doing that, we're missing something. Like we're missing the point. And as someone who spent a lot of time working their life away as a recovering workaholic and overachiever, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to enjoy. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to do a lot of things and still enjoy work and accomplishing, but I want to do it with a different sense. So with that, I'm going to start the reading. Today we will start with Buddhism. Thich Nhat Hanh, hopefully I'm saying that right, Hun, and his little pocket wisdom here I'm enjoying so much. And I'm going to read The Businessless Person. Master Linji invented the term businessless person, the person who has nothing to do and nowhere to go. This was his ideal example of what a person could be. In Theravada Buddhism, the ideal person was the Arhat, someone who practiced to attain enlightenment. In Mahayana Buddhism, the ideal person was the Bodhisattva, a compassionate being who, on the path of enlightenment, helped others. According to Master Linji, the businessless person is someone who doesn't run after enlightenment or grasp at anything, even if that thing is the Buddha. The person has simply stopped. She is no longer caught by anything, even theories or teachings. The businessless person is the true person inside each one of us, not even caught by theories or teachings. This is the essential teaching of Master Linji. When we learn to stop and be truly alive in the present moment, we are in touch with what's going on within and around us. We aren't carried away by the past, the future, our thinking, ideas, emotions, and projects. Often we think that our ideas about things are the reality of that thing. Our notion of the Buddha may just be an idea and may be far from reality. The Buddha outside ourselves was a human being who was born, lived, and died. For us to seek such a Buddha would be to seek a shadow, a ghost Buddha, and at some point our idea of Buddha would become an obstacle for us. Master Linji said that when we meet the ghost Buddha, we should cut off his head. Whether we're looking inside or outside ourselves, we need to cut off the head of whatever we meet and abandon the views and ideas we have about things, including our ideas about Buddhism and Buddhist teachings. Buddhist teachings are not exalted words and scriptures existing outside us, sitting on a high shelf in a temple, but are medicine for our ills. Buddhist teachings are skillful means to cure our ignorance, craving, and anger, as well as our habit of seeking things outside and not having confidence in ourselves. Insight can't be found in sutras, commentaries, or dharma talks. Liberation and awakened understanding can't be found by devoting ourselves to the study of the Buddhist scriptures. This is like hoping to find fresh water in dry bones. Like that. Returning to the present moment, using our clear mind that exists right here and now, we can be in touch with liberation and enlightenment, as well as with the Buddha and all his disciples as living realities right in this moment. The person who has nothing to do is sovereign of herself. She doesn't need to put on airs or leave any trace behind. The true person is an active participant, engaged in her environment while remaining unoppressed by it. Although all phenomena are going through the various appearances of birth, abiding, changing, and dying, the true person doesn't become a victim of sadness, happiness, love, or hate. She lives in awareness as an ordinary person, whether standing, walking, lying down, or sitting. She doesn't act a part, even the part of a great Zen master. This is what Master Linji means by, be sovereign whatever you are, and use that place as your seat of awakening. And then I'm going to couple that with a reading from Nature, Man and Woman by Alan Watts. Not all the way through this book, but I'm finding it very fascinating. And this also speaks about action. The question, why should one act, has meaning only so long as motivation seems necessary to action. But if action or process rather than inert substance is what constitutes the world, it is absurd to seek an external reason for action. There is really no alternative to action. And this is not to say that we must act, since this would imply the reality of the inert, substantial of the inert. Substantial we, reluctantly activated from outside. Let me read that again. There is really no alternative to action. And this is not to say that we must act, since this would imply the reality of the inert, substantial we, reluctantly activated from outside. The point is that motivated or not, we are action. But when action is felt to be motivated, it expresses the hungering emptiness of the ego, the inertness of entity rather than the liveliness of act. When, however, man is not pursuing something outside himself, he is action expressing its own fullness, whether weeping for sorrow or jumping for joy. In Indian philosophy, karma signifies both motivated or purposeful action and cause and effect, and karma is the type of action which holds man in bondage. Goal-seeking, it reaches no goal, but ever perpetuates the need for goals. Solving problems, it ever creates more problems to solve. Karma is therefore a significant action because, like the sign, it points beyond itself to a meaning, to the motive from which it sprang or the end which it seeks. It is action creating the necessity for further action. On the other hand, sahaja is spontaneous and inconsequential action, characteristic of the jivan mukta, the liberated one, who lives and moves in the same way as nature, babbling like streams, gesticulating like trees in the wind, wandering like clouds, or just existing like rocks on the sand. His life has the quality of what the Japanese call fura, the flapping of a cloth in the breeze or the motion of an empty gourd in a bubbling river. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the voice thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh, nor whither it goeth. It's a quote. No more can the wind itself. This is why there is a universal likening of sages to lunatics, since in their subtly differing ways, neither makes any sense nor accepts the world's practical scale of values. His door stands closed, and the wise ones do not know him. His inner life is hidden, and he moves outside the ruts of the recognized virtues. Carrying a gourd, he enters the marketplace. Making his way with a staff, he returns home. Even in the liquor shop and the fish market, everyone is transformed into a Buddha. And there's a quote, bare-chested and barefooted, he goes into the dust of this world. Smeared with mud and daubed with ashes, he wears a broad grin. He has no need of the secret powers of the gods, for by his direct command, the dead trees blossom with flowers. For as the nonsense of the madman is a babble of words for its own fascination, the nonsense of nature and of the sage is the perception that the ultimate meaninglessness of the world contains the same hidden joy as its transience and emptiness. The nonsense of nature and of the sage is the perception that the ultimate meaninglessness of the world contains the same hidden joy. If we seek the meaning in the past, the chain of cause and effect vanishes like the wake of a ship. If we seek it in the future, it fades out like the beam of a searchlight in the night sky. If we seek it in the present, it is as elusive as flying spray, and there is nothing to grasp. But when only the seeking remains, and we seek to know what this is, it suddenly turns into mountains and waters, the sky and the stars, sufficient to themselves, with no one left to seek anything from them. So some deep wisdom in there about this idea of motivation, or the feeling that we need to get somewhere because of something, or trying to find a reason for what is, and that in and itself creates this infinite loop of what says goal seeking ever perpetuates the need for goals. So it's just sort of like this endless loop that makes us feel like we're getting somewhere, but it's producing its own emptiness, and it counterintuitively is actually in the meaninglessness and the emptiness, without needing to look for cause and effect or reason or goals, that it has this hidden joy of just being, just appreciating, just being deeply in the present moment, and understanding that there's nowhere to be, that all of this stuff is happening. You're born, you're living, you're dying. That's all going to happen. And as long as we're engaging in this sort of rat race game and playing a part, even of a Zen master, that we're kind of missing the point. And a true person can just be content, be happy with what is, and not need to analyze or excuse. I'm digging it. I feel like there was a lot in there for me. Hopefully there was something in there for you.